Welcome to Daily Book Insight. Today, we're diving into a book with a title that does not mess around. I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. Now, you're probably thinking, you've heard all this before, right? Save more, spend less, stop buying coffee. But we're going to skip all that tired advice. We are getting to the real heart of this thing, the core philosophy that makes this book so different. A system that's not about cutting back, but about designing a life you are genuinely excited to live.
So let's just start with a question that flips the entire script on personal finance. What if getting rich had nothing to do with sacrifice? What if it was actually about spending more, like extravagantly, on the things you absolutely love? This one idea, this single question, is the foundation for everything else we're about to talk about. It's a huge shift from a mindset of no to a mindset of yes.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we have to tackle the most important question of all. What is your rich life? Then we'll get into the nuts and bolts with something called the conscious spending plan and the magic of automation. From there, we'll demystify investing, talk about focusing on the big wins that actually matter, and wrap up by looking at the common money traps the system helps you dodge completely.
Okay, first things first, before we even think about accounts or percentages, we have to start with the vision. Because if you don't know your destination, any road will get you there, and you probably won't like where you end up. This is all about you defining what rich actually means.
This one sentence, this is the entire philosophy in a nutshell. It's about throwing out that old, guilt-ridden idea of budgeting. The goal here is to be intentional. You figure out what you truly value, and you say a huge, enthusiastic yes to that. And that makes it so much easier to say no to all the stuff that just doesn't matter to you. You become a conscious spender, not just a penny pincher.
And honestly, here's the crazy part. Most people never do this. A rich life is not some number in your bank account. For one person, yeah, maybe it is buying a $1,000 cashmere coat without flinching. But for someone else, it's the freedom to pick up their kids from school every single day. Or maybe it's being able to travel for 3 months straight every year. It's deeply personal. And if you don't define it for yourself, you're just going to end up chasing someone else's dream.
This brings up a really important point. This system is about being frugal, not cheap. And they are not the same thing. A cheap person cares only about cost. They'll argue over 50 cents and waste an hour to save $1. A frugal person, on the other hand, thinks about value. They might spend a ton of money on a high-quality pair of boots they'll wear for a decade, but then turn around and mercilessly cut costs on something they don't care about, like premium cable. It's strategic. It's long-term thinking.
So, you've defined your rich life. Awesome. Now for the big question. How do you actually pay for it? This is where we get practical with the conscious spending plan. And no, this is not a budget. A budget is about looking back at what you spent. This is a forward-looking plan for your money, and it's all built around 4 simple buckets.
Okay, here's what it looks like. These are just guidelines, but Ramit suggests that out of your monthly take-home pay, about 50 to 60% should go to your fixed costs. Then, a non-negotiable 10% for investments, another 5 to 10% for savings goals. And then, look at this, a huge chunk, 20 to 35% is set aside for guilt-free spending. That's the money for your rich life, and it's built right into the system.
So let's break that down. Fixed costs, that's the stuff you gotta pay, right? Rent or mortgage, utilities, any debt payments. Investments, that's money for future you, for long-term wealth. Savings, this is for specific shorter-term goals, like an emergency fund, a vacation, or a down payment on a house. And that last bucket, guilt-free spending, that's your fun money. That's for dinners out, hobbies, clothes, whatever you decided makes up your rich life. And because all the important stuff is already taken care of, you can spend every last penny of it with zero guilt.
Now, this all sounds great in theory, but let's be real. Who has the discipline to sit down and manually move their money into 4 different buckets every single month? Yeah, pretty much nobody. And that is why the real engine of this entire system, the secret sauce, is automation. This is how you make it all happen without ever relying on willpower. You know, there's this fascinating psychological bias called the paradox of choice. It basically says that when we have too many options, we get overwhelmed and just shut down. We do nothing. Automation is the perfect antidote to that. It makes the right decision for you automatically. Think about it. When companies started automatically enrolling their employees in 401k plans, participation rates shot up from around 40% to nearly 100%. Automation just makes the best choice the easiest choice. So here's what it looks like in the real world. Let's say Michelle gets her paycheck. Before she even sees it, the system gets to work. It automatically sends money to her 401k and a Roth IRA. Then, it zips money over to her savings accounts for her wedding and a future house. Then it pays all her fixed bills. And here's the beautiful part. Whatever is left in her checking account is hers to spend, completely guilt-free. The important work is already done.
Okay, so the money is now flowing automatically into your investment accounts. Great, but now what? For a lot of people, this is the most intimidating part. You picture complicated charts, stock tickers, people yelling on Wall Street. But Ramit boils it all down to a super simple, step-by-step ladder that literally anyone can follow.
This is your order of operations. Step 1, and this is non-negotiable. If your employer offers a 401k match, you contribute enough to get every single penny of that match. It is an instant 100% return on your money. It is free money. After that, you get aggressive and pay off any high-interest debt, like credit cards. Then, you fund a Roth IRA. Still have money left? Go back and contribute more to your 401k. It's a clear list of priorities, from top to bottom.
So what do you actually invest in? Well, the key concept here is asset allocation, basically the mix of stocks and bonds you own. And the strategy is pretty simple. When you're young, you can afford to be more aggressive, so you'll have a lot more in stocks. You've got time to ride out any market dips. But as you get closer to retirement, as you can see here, you start shifting more of your money into safer things like bonds to protect what you've built. But what if you don't want to deal with any of that? Honestly, for 99% of us, there's an even simpler answer: a target date fund. All you do is pick a fund with the year you think you'll retire, something like a Target 2060 fund. That's it. The fund automatically handles all the diversification and rebalancing for you, getting safer as you get older. It is the definition of set it and forget it. All right, your system is automated and running in the background. Now you can stop worrying about the tiny details and put your energy where it's actually going to make a huge difference. This is all about focusing on the big, macro-level wins instead of tiny micro-optimizations.
And this is a key part of that mindset. Ramit calls it the 85% solution. The idea is simple. It is so much better to get started with a plan that's 85% perfect than to get paralyzed by trying to find the absolute 100% perfect solution and end up doing nothing. Way more money is lost to inaction than to a slightly imperfect decision.
This slide says it all. You have to stop wasting your brainpower on $3 questions like, can I afford this coffee? And you need to start asking $30,000 questions. Is my financial system automated? Did I get my full 401k match? Have I negotiated my salary recently? Am I paying down my debt? Getting just a few of these big things right will have 1,000 times more impact than skipping a lifetime of lattes.
And this right here is the ultimate big win. Think about it. There is a hard limit to how much you can cut from your budget. Eventually, you get to zero. But your potential to earn more money, that is theoretically unlimited. Focusing on negotiating a raise or building a side income is just a much more powerful strategy in the long run.
All right, let's wrap this up by looking at a couple of the most common money traps that people fall into and how this system helps you see right through them.
This quote comes from a real conversation Ramit had with a couple named Amy and Tori, and it is absolutely staggering. They were just making the minimum payments on their credit card debt, and look at the real cost. They were on track to pay over $124,000 in interest alone. That's money that literally vanishes into thin air. And let's put that 534 months into perspective. That is 44 years. 44 years. By only paying the minimum, they would have been well into their 70s before they were finally debt-free. This is why paying off high-interest debt is such a massive big win. It's a trap designed to keep you poor.
And here's another big one, this myth that renting is throwing money away and that buying a house is always a great investment. The reality is, it's complicated. Once you factor in all the hidden costs, we're talking maintenance, property taxes, insurance, realtor fees, the actual financial return on your home is often way lower than if you had just invested that same money in the stock market. Sometimes renting is the smarter financial move, giving you the flexibility to live your rich life.
So there you have it. That's the system. From defining your vision to building an automated money machine that handles everything for you. The mechanics are actually pretty simple. The system works. So the real work, the question that only you can answer, is the one we started with. What is all this for? What does your rich life really look like?
Hey, if you found this insight valuable, please do us a huge favor and hit that like and subscribe button. And if you know someone who's ready to stop stressing about money and start designing their own rich life, share this with them. Thanks for watching.